Welcome back. We're so glad you joined us. And today we're talking about another and.
Another and. I'm so excited.
Yes, because it doesn't really count as a step. It's sort of background information that you need to know in order to know what's going on in your brain when you have a belief or when there's a maladaptive behavior that your brain has something to do with.
Right.
Okay, so just to recap, the and before we even start our steps is to accept or admit that there's a change that needs to be made. And we're hoping that the change doesn't occur based on some horrible pain, right?
Right.
We're hoping that the change can occur because of a love relationship or because maybe you're bored and you want to have an adventurous life.
Hey.
We are using an old-fashioned dry erase board, that's what it's called,
Yes.
from back in the day, because I'm going to draw a picture of a brain for you.
Yes.
And it's better than trying to pull a diagram off the internet because I want to draw it anyway.
And we love a visual reference.
Right, exactly. Plus, I'm going to be using my ability to teach this like I'm talking to a bench officer, which is sort of like talking.
Ooh, I'm kind of nervous.
No, it's like talking to someone like they're not an expert in science. And when I explain something to a bench officer that has to do with psychology, I have to speak in a way that is clear. So hopefully I'm clear on this. Again, I'm not an expert or a scientist, but I will be using a dry erase board. So the and has been discussed. Now let's move to step one. If you can remember, Alex, what is step one?
Identify.
Right. Identify what?
The beliefs.
Very good. The beliefs, the false beliefs, the beliefs that are limiting, the beliefs that are keeping you stuck in that cage, in the bars of the cage. And then the and is moving to the second B. So step two is identify the behaviors. And those are those good behaviors or maladaptive behaviors?
Maladaptive behaviors.
Absolutely. And the maladaptive behaviors generally mask an emotion that a person doesn't want to feel. We haven't talked about emotions yet, so that's coming.
Yes.
Okay. But we're identifying them. That's it.
Yep.
And then we will be speaking next week with a colleague and a friend who will be talking about step three with. I'm excited to share that with you, but just to give you a quick preview, step three will be identifying the cause of those beliefs and those behaviors. But before we move into that third step, let's do the and. So I want to fast forward to one of the steps, which is going to be an emotion that occurs. So we're going to use an emotion called fear, which is generally an emotion that creates a physical reaction in the body, in the brain and the body. Right. So I want to give credit to Peter Levine and his book, Waking the Tiger Within, and we can put those in the show notes, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and also Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so you're familiar
with that one.
Okay,
Yes,
good, very good. So I give credit where credit is due. And then another colleague and friend, Dr. Regelina Melrose. And so she and I have worked together for more than a decade. And she is an excellent teacher when it comes to how the neuroscience has changed over the past several decades when we've had MRI technology, so magnetic resonance imaging. So as all of you know, I have training in psychology, and psychology has centuries, at least more than a century, of research and studies behind it. However, we have not had centuries worth of magnetic resonance imaging. So now that we can see what's going on in the brain, we know that the brain lights up when it's activated. So let me explain first what happens in the brain when a fear occurs. And the best way I can explain this is, let's say a coyote is chasing a rabbit through the woods. So the coyote's chasing the rabbit and grabs the rabbit and shakes the rabbit, shakes, and is going to kill the rabbit, perhaps. But then all of a sudden, something happens and the coyote gets distracted, drops the rabbit, and runs off to wherever, right? Let's say this happens.
Yeah.
All right. So in the animal kingdom, the rabbit will generally lie there. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to say that this is exactly perfect, but this is a word picture or an analogy.
Yes.
The rabbit will lie there for a season, perhaps a minute, maybe two, and then perhaps the animal will release the adrenaline through shivering or shaking.
Yeah.
And then once that trapped emotion of fear, which obviously an animal is going to feel fear to escape the predator.
Correct, yes.
Once the emotion has been released through the physiological shaking or whatever it is, then the rabbit gets up, hops off, and doesn't have to go to therapy.
That's so great for that rabbit.
I know, right.
Okay, yes.
But what do we do? Let's say we get in a car accident, God forbid, on the way to work.
Okay, yeah.
Do we take the rest of the day off? And we're not injured. badly. But
yeah.
let's say we were driving on the 22 and we get hit from behind, which is what happened to me a few years ago.
Oof, okay.
And an emotion of horror or fear is trapped.
Yeah.
And there's no major physical pain, not much major physical pain. But do we continue driving and we go to work and we say, I got in an accident on the way to work?
Yeah, typically, yes.
Right. Because as people, we think that we should be able to get up and brush it off and allow our day to go on. Right. But what happens in the body is that an emotion gets trapped.
Ah, yes.
Okay. And so when that emotion traps and it's unresolved, then it can later give way to a physical manifestation of some sort of pain. When there is a fear or the emotion of fear, generally the body will react in 4 ways. And you've heard these: fight, flight, freeze. And the 4th way is fawn. Fawn means to give deference in a manner that is subservient almost.
Can you give an example of fawning?
Sure. So let's say that a child is abused by his parent, God forbid, right? Yeah. The child generally, after the abuse has occurred, will fawn toward that parent and do whatever it takes to keep and appease that parent who's out of control and despicably harming a child. The fawn behavior occurs oftentimes in abuse relationships. Okay. But a fight is what I do when I am reacting with fear. I fight back, especially with those attorneys that call me laughable and inexperienced, right?
Yeah.
That's my fight response.
Yes.
But I did have a flee response. Remember, I sent the first attorney to court for me?
Yes.
Right? And then the freeze, which is do nothing, right? And sometimes people get caught and paralyzed in the freeze when there's a fear reaction. So what's going on in the body with that fear? Okay, let's talk about it.
I have a question real quick before we get into that. In your experience, do you think people experience all 4 of those at different times? Or okay, so it's not always that like my default is not always to freeze necessarily.
No, you can experience all of them.
Okay.
Or none of them, or a couple of them, right?
And
So again, identifying. So you can identify, I'm in a fight mode right now.
Yes.
Right? Or I need to freeze right now, or I'm in, I'm flight mode is free, trying to escape the pain.
Yeah.
And then obviously the fawning. So this is just going to be very rudimentary. I'm not trying to be an expert or an artist on this, but let's just talk about what the brain looks like. And most of you already know this from school. I'm not proclaiming to be an artist here. Let's say that this is the brain. Okay. And let's say that this is the frontal cortex. So when a person is triggered with a fear reaction, the first thing that happens is this primitive brain takes over and warns the body and begins the entire biological process to protect the person. So for example, with the rabbit, I'm not an expert on rabbits' brains, but the rabbit has automatic triggers in the body to give the rabbit the ability to try to outrun the coyote. So for example, there are hormones that are released.
Okay, yeah.
Like adrenaline.
Adrenaline, yeah, big one.
Cortisol.
Yep.
Epinephrine and other hormones that are released that enable a person to escape that particular fear or predator or whatever is causing the body to react, okay?
Right.
So here we have something called the amygdala. It's inside the brain. It's shaped like an almond, and that's what actually starts to kick in the body's reaction so that the body can escape whatever predator is coming. So the amygdala fires these hormones.
Okay.
Now, when this happens, this process happens, a person no longer uses the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is what is our rational brain. It's what drives logic. It's what we use for language. It's what distinguishes us as a species because the frontal lobe enables us, for example, to use language.
Okay.
But when a person touches a hot stove, the primitive brain is what kicks in and allows the body to react so quickly that the nervous system and the nerve endings that are signaled by the release of adrenaline cause a physical reaction before we can think about it. So when a person is in an argument, for example, with a loved one, and they're feeling anger or frustration, and they're reacting based on an emotion, a fear emotion, for example, I'm afraid of abandonment or whatever,
Yes.
the frontal cortex goes offline. And a person is unable to really think rationally, and instead they're in a reactive mode. Okay?
Okay.
Now, what happens when, for example, a person is in a very stressful career and they are concerned all the time that their either career is going to be harmed or they're under extreme pressure at work? Their primitive brain is causing the amygdala to cause the other organs in the brain, the hippocampus, the cerebellum, all of the different organs to fire these hormones, including the cortisol, that can create chronic stress. Okay?
Okay.
And the constant hormonal flood through the body that tells the body that the person is in danger can create harm. It causes disease.
Yeah.
So how does a person, knowing the science of when he or she is triggered with fear, stop the adrenaline and the cortisol reaction from causing the body to produce things that create disease? How does a person get out of that cycle? Identify the belief, they're going to leave me. Right? What is the behavior? Beginning an argument, right? Starting to raise the voice or chasing after that person.
Right.
Texting them 100 times during the day, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So if you identify the belief and the behavior, then you can pause in the and before you look at the next step, which is the cause. You can think to yourself, okay, look, I'm reacting right now. I don't need to react. I can respond when I can think clearly again. Because what we do, unfortunately, as human beings, which is different from the rabbit, is that we outthink our responses. So instead of allowing ourselves the time to heal, like we talked about the grief cycle, sometimes you have to go through the grief in order to be ready.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
We talk ourselves out of it. I should be over this relationship right now. I should be able to control my eating. I should be making more money at work. All of these things are shoulds, and this is our rational brain telling us what our bodies are able to really express to us if we just pay attention. So when we find that our shoulders are tense or that we have a headache or that our hands are shaking or that we have a stomach ache or a lower back pain, it's likely because we have been living in a reactive, stressed situation so long that finally our bodies are telling us, hey, if you don't change this, then we're going to make something even more difficult for you. For example, you're going to throw your back out or you're going to end up with a migraine and not be able to go to work today. And so we can heal, the body can heal itself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if you have a chronic disease and there's no judgment and if you can't get healed, it's not because it's your fault. It's because sometimes people don't know what the neuroscience says and what MRI technology says. So here's what you learn with an MRI. When a person talks about something that is stressful, an event that a person considers traumatic, that part of the brain that has the memory of that traumatic event lights up. And so with talk therapy, again, there's nothing wrong with talk therapy. It works for many people, but generally we used to think before we had MRI technology that talk therapy works and that you can get healed if you lie on the sofa and talk about your childhood.
Okay, yes.
We now know that talking about trauma or a traumatic experience reactivates the brain using the primitive brain. It creates the hormones to flood the body. The body wants to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and healing doesn't really occur.
This is what is commonly referred to as a trigger.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
Right. And so I'm in the process, I'm not touting any specific form of healing, but I'm in the process of exploring other types of psychological healing. One is called somatic experiencing. Somatic experience, soma means body, and somatic experiencing is where a person sits with a practitioner and the trigger happens.
Okay.
Perhaps the practitioner says, think of an event, Alex, that you experienced where it created some physical reaction in your body.
Yeah, I was attacked by a German Shepherd last year.
Okay.
Grabbed right onto my ankle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, perfect example. Okay. And the reason is this. If you sit in therapy and talk about how the German Shepherd is a scary dog and he bit your ankle, every time you talk about it, your body's going to be triggered. And if you had on a helmet and we were measuring your brain with an MRI, or do you use a helmet with MRI? Or you go in the body
You go in the
scan thing,
machine,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So if your brain would be lit up.
Yeah, okay. Got it, yeah.
All right. Now, if you're with a healthy practitioner who helps you somatically experience that, perhaps you sit and do not talk.
Oh, okay.
You say, I'm remembering the dog bite. All right. Now, in somatic experiencing, generally, you put your feet on the floor, you breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and you observe where in the body are you feeling some tightness or tension, right?
Yeah.
Or fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And then you sit with that in order for, this is what somatic experiencing teaches. I'm not touting this as true.
I'm following.
In order for the left and the right brain to communicate with itself through the corpus callosum, which I'm not going to draw that here, but the left and the right brain, as we've talked about before, communicate with itself using the vehicle in between called the corpus callosum.
Okay.
And the body will assimilate and process that fear of the dog bite.
Okay.
And perhaps you start perspiring, like the rabbit shaking, or you start to cry, or you start to sweat or vomit, right?
Or a heart palpitation in my case.
Heart palpitations, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
While you're in the presence of a practitioner who is a health person, not trying to do this by yourself. And then that trauma that has gotten trapped in the body, that emotion that's been perhaps trapped in the body can be released.
Wow, that would be great. Yes.
So, and somatic experiencing is not really accepted yet. We are ahead with regard to that particular type of healing.
Okay.
However, I do see that there's quite a bit of promise with that particular type of therapy. There's also EMDR. It's where the eyes go back and forth. That does have literature supporting that type of therapy where a person can go through a traumatic event and use EMDR. So in my life, I did use EMDR when I was in my early 20s. I was, my father had a fatal heart attack. And I was there when this happened. I happened to be home that day. It was my mother's birthday. I had come home from UCLA and I heard my mother the next morning going through the house saying, I need help. Your father won't wake up. I also had a younger brother at the time. He was 14, about to turn 15. And so I jumped in with the training from CPR that I had learned in school somewhere, I don't even know, and went to the bedroom and found him. He had died in his sleep. He had had a fatal heart attack. Peacefully, though. His eyes were closed, so we donated his corneas.
Oh, okay.
But very young, 49 years old. And so I pulled him off the bed. He was 6'6". In my mind, I was thinking, I can't perform CPR on a bed. I need to get him on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Boom, he landed on the ground. That sound was awful. It was horrific. And then I performed CPR on my father, who had been dead for 4 hours. So I didn't know it at the time because when I ripped the covers off, his body was still warm, so I didn't know how long ago it had happened. So I did perform the CPR until the paramedics got there. My brother was there, and I don't know whether he's recovered from that, but he was very young at the time. And I needed to recover as well. And so during the CPR, I could hear the lungs had fluid in them. And all of that, the trauma memory of his body landing and the fluid in his lungs caused me to then, at the time, I was still in school at UCLA, go to some therapy for EMDR. And thankfully, I was able to overcome the trapped emotion of shock and horror, having experienced that with my father. So there are other modalities besides talk therapy in order to get the healing. But the point is, the emotion traps in the body. I also, Alex, want to talk about another form of healing.
Okay.
It's called the emotion code.
Oh, I've never heard this.
I know. Most people haven't heard of the emotion code. So the way it works is a practitioner asks the body for permission to begin assessing what parts of the body have trapped emotions. Because as we know, the body is a large percent water. There's a great book called Hidden Messages in Water that tells about water having a memory. And as our body is 70% water-ish, again, I'm not pretending to be an expert, the water in our body has a memory and a trapped emotion stays in there. So his name is Masaruemoto. And it's a great book. But are you familiar with that book, Alex?
I am familiar with that book, yes.
What tell us a little bit about what's inside that book.
So there are some images. This was the part that really stuck with me. There are some images of water under a microscope after different emotions were expressed to the water. Anger, hate, love, and the way that they look is incredible. Hate looks like sharp and spiky, and kindness and love is soft and flowy, and it's amazing that happens like that. Agree
100%. So if our bodies are a large percentage water, and it's our bodies are being bombarded constantly by negative messaging, it creates trauma and chaos in the body, right? And so as we move into step 4 and step 5, we will go into how to create the environment inside of our physical bodies that enable us to then be more aligned with our authentic self. And so by not having the reaction and the dysfunction and the maladaptive behaviors and all of those negative aspects of our bodies being controlled by the hidden messages in our bodies even, then we can get free of that debris.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And move into health and authenticity.
Yes.
So, and another idea is to remind the listener that understanding the biology is to remember that none of this is our fault.
Right.
We were wired this way. We were created this way in order to survive. All right. And remember when we were speaking with Pedro about having the left and the right hemisphere connect, and he gave us some great illustrations using his fingers.
Yes.
So I'm just going to draw the left and the right brain, right?
And drawing
this would be the left.
Yeah.
And this is the right. So this area here, and I don't know if my drawing is to scale or even accurate, but the corpus callosum acts to connect the left and the right brain together. And so what I learned when I was doing a little somatic experiencing was, if you can sit in a room by yourself with no sensory information whatsoever for 5 minutes and allow the left and right brain to connect with one another in order to experience peace and solitude, then try it for 10 minutes. Then try it for 15 minutes. Because if you feel the need to check your phone or think about something that you need to do, or in any way gives you, if you cannot sit and experience yourself and allow the left and right hemisphere to connect with one another, then it's time. That's an indication for you that there's some work that needs to be done, because we're trying to snap out of limiting beliefs, maladaptive behaviors, and we can determine whether we have limiting beliefs and maladaptive behaviors by deciding whether we can actually sit in a room by ourselves and have the peace that's required to have health and wellness and joy. So when we move into step 4 and step 5, we're going to be talking about other techniques that a person can use in order to align with oneself, meditation and other modalities. This is a quick test. You've written down your false beliefs or your true beliefs. You've written down maladaptive behaviors that you may or may not want to change. Try sitting alone and see what happens. See if the left and the right brain are able to connect with one another. And that also promotes healing.
What's so exciting about all these steps, but specifically this, is we aren't taught this growing up. This is exciting for anyone that's following along all of these episodes and taking this in, because I certainly wasn't taught this growing up. I learned about this in my 30s and I'm here now.
You know, MRI technology has only been the past 50 or 60 years.
That's true. But this is why it's so exciting.
Exactly.
And that we are on the forefront here of making it digestible for people to understand. It's not a scary thing to learn about, and it's for the betterment of yourself.
Yes, Alex, that is very exciting. And knowing this enables you to realize that we were created, divinely created, in order to be able to heal our bodies and ourselves.
Yes.
And so learning how the brain works and learning how our biological system functions, that was originally intended to protect us and keep us safe, in today's society becomes almost a detriment, because chronic stress, being bombarded on a daily basis with worries, problems, and fears can create the biological responses where hormones are being released on a continual basis, including cortisol, and these hormones are killers, right?
Yeah.
The stress alone is very damaging and can create situations like the autoimmune issue or other health issues. And so in order to be able to snap out of the limiting beliefs and limiting behaviors to align in one's authentic self, it's really important to know how you can use the neuroscience, how you can use biology to benefit you. So if the body is wired to produce these hormones to keep you safe, the body also has hormones that you can use to keep you healed and keep you in a joy and peaceful situation. And so we'll be learning about that as we move forward. But this was it's not an actual step. But as we move into step 3, which is to identify the causes of those beliefs and behaviors, you can think back to what's going on in my body. Why am I having a hard time breathing right now? Why are my shoulders tight right now? Because some hormone is racing through my body, causing this fight, flight, freeze or fawn reaction. And now that I'm noticing what's happening in my body, I'm able to then take action on that. So once we've identified the beliefs or identified the behaviors and we know what the body is doing, then we can move into the third step. Now, I also want to say this. Okay. This isn't linear. So we're teaching this in a linear way, but as we have learned in the past, sometimes we do things in a circular way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This was all very insightful. And it's every week I'm more and more excited. It's so good. I can't wait.
We just want to thank you for being on this journey with us. At the end of this podcast series, we will be giving a little short where you can have a quick access sheet, but we are going through this journey together. So we thank you so much for being here with us, and we enjoy having you.
Yeah, please be sure to rate, subscribe, drop your comments, leave your questions. Ginger is excited to hear what you have to say, and we would love to address anything that you have on future episodes. So thank you so much for watching and listening.
And thank you to the shoulders on whom we can stand, because without the research and the science, we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
Doing this podcast.
That's right. All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.